And welcome, everybody, to Kentucky's Voice. Of course, I'm your host for the day, Andrew Cooperrider, your normal host for Wednesdays, though. I do have some sad news for you guys. I will be off the next 3 weeks here at Kentucky's Voice, so you will not have me on Kentucky's Voice on Wednesday for the next 3 weeks or so, but I will be back, I hope, assuming they still decide to keep me on. I would think so, but who knows? Who knows? But if, though, you're like, look, I don't want to miss out on Andrew Cooperrider. Well, you don't have to worry about that because the Andrew Cooperrider Show, even while I'm gone, will still have some new episodes, and we've got some big things planned. In fact, I did a digital forum with Nate Morris, Andy Barr, and Daniel Cameron. I asked them 10 questions. They have submitted their answers. I have the videos for all of them. Those will be coming out on the Andrew Cooperrider Show. Also, I'll have an interview, I believe, with Ryan Dotson running for that 6th congressional district there in Lexington. So those will be episodes coming out while I am gone. And if you want to listen to the Andrew Cooperrider Show, we can listen to it right here on 970 AM Sundays at 6 p.m. And then also you can watch it on WBNA Wednesdays at 11. And if you can't catch any of those, well, you can head over to theandrewshow.com. Once again, that's theandrewshow.com and see all the different places where you can listen to the Andrew Cooperrider Show. I put out new episodes every week, so you should be able to catch more of Andrew Cooperrider there if it's just not enough. But today, after last week, I had on Shannon Dennison. He's talking about Powell County raising taxes 16 or so %. And after that, I got reached out to by some people in Shelby County. Now, on either this show or my show, some show, I'd mentioned in passing that Shelby County was having its own tax increase. And we have today Levi Anderson joining me. He is, I guess, one of the front people. I mean, there's a few people, obviously, but he's one of the individuals leading the way and collecting up those signatures to put Shelby County's tax increase onto a referendum. Of course, for those of you listening, whether you're in Jefferson County, Shelby County, any other county that you're listening to, these are important fights because, one, you do have JCPS looking at raising your taxes, and if they see tax increases across the state, including right in their own backyard of Shelby County, failing, being brought to a referendum and failing to make the vote, guess what? That will put a stop and put a second thought to them before they try to raise your taxes a massive 15% like we're seeing in some of these counties. So we'll have that conversation when we get back, of course, after this short break coming up. Now, if you want to join into the conversation, you want to text in emotions, feelings, thoughts, questions, you can do that by texting 502-571-0970. Traditionally, when I'm on in the last segment, I will answer those texts. We'll talk about them on air. So if you want to get that in, once again, that is 502-571-0970. Once again, 502-571-0970. You can also give here to the nonprofit that is Kentucky's Voice. You can text the word GIVE, G-I-V-E, to 502-571-0970. I've got about a minute left. I do want to bring this up. Representative T.J. Roberts filed an open records report. For those of you who missed it, Bashir went to Europe, happened to bring along his family with him to do an economic trip, whatever that means. You'd think if it's about investing in Kentucky, the would-be investors would come here. But, of course, he went to them in Europe. Because who doesn't want to take a little vacation in Europe? But not just he went. No. His entire family came. His wife and kids also joined him on this trip. Now, I don't know about you, but back in my day when I took work trips, my family wasn't typically allowed to come with me. Well, we've got some numbers on that due to TJ Roberts' open record request. $45,000. That was the cost to the taxpayers for the Bashir family vacation in Europe. $45,000. I want to make sure you guys got that information. We'll be back here, though, in just a few short seconds. I just wanted to kind of lay down a few things there for you to understand about what's going on in today's show and let you know what we have coming up here today. But stay tuned. It's an important conversation. We'll be back in a few short seconds. And you're back. A short minute there, and you're back here with Andrew Cooperrider on Kentucky's Voice. Today, I'm joined by Levi Anderson. There is a fight a-brewing in Shelby County over a tax increase. Real quick, Levi, let us know a little bit about that fight, okay? Because this is right in Jefferson County's backyard. Jefferson County is clearly, I think, looking at this fight in Shelby County and saying, hey, look, we have a $188 million deficit because, not too good with the money. But what we're going to go ahead and do is see what's happening with these other tax increases before we try to fix our problem, not by, cutting back, spending better, but by digging into the pocket of our taxpayers. What's going on in Shelby County?
Well, you said it just now. As far as cutting back and cutting spending, we haven't seen any of that from the school board or the school district. And so as a business, a family, individual, most folks have to make tough decisions when it comes to the budget. Mm-hmm. And if an effort had been shown to demonstrate that they have cut funding here and they've saved a few dollars there and that they've done everything that they can to make the numbers work and they're just running short, and they come to the public and say, well, we just need this few extra dollars in order to make the system run, that would be a different conversation. But from what I've seen and from talking with others in the community is that this is more of a business as usual. To clarify the situation, the tax rate for Shelby County Public Schools is the same as it was last year at 71.4 cents. However, House Bill 44 was passed in 1979 for this very instance when a community grows in size. There's new businesses, there's new homes and neighborhoods, and the assessments rise on those homes and businesses. That creates the House Bill 44 says that the tax rate should come down in order to spread that burden on the whole community.
To explain it for people who didn't catch the Shannon Dennison episode or the other episodes where we've talked about this, our tax system for property tax, how it's figured, is a little convoluted. Yes. Essentially, the way that the legislature has defined a tax increase here in Kentucky is by saying what percentage more is the actual check you're writing on your property taxes. So while a rate may remain the same or it may even drop, the actual check you write to the schools on your property taxes can still go up due to the assessed value of the homes going up. So rather than saying, look, they can raise 4% on the rate, which would mean that in circumstances like we're seeing now, where people are getting 10 and 15% tax increases, they're saying, look, it's about how much is that check you're writing. And so in the law, the way they write this is the rate of which they would receive the same amount of funds minus any new property built is called the compensating rate. And so that would be, if your taxes remain the same, they would set it at the compensating rate. If they're keeping the rate the same and it's higher than the compensating rate, then it is a tax increase because the check you're actually writing will go up. Now, you're saying the rate's staying the same, but what is the size of the check that the residents of Shelby County would be writing now to the schools? How much is that going up?
For some individuals that I've spoken with, their property tax bill has gone down because their assessment has stayed the same. The county tax, the library
tax. Well, for
now,
it's stayed the same until the PVA gets around to readdressing it.
The issue being that most of the other taxing districts in the county have brought their rates down because we have grown so much as a community over the past year and several years, and these assessments have risen. There's such a larger pool for the to be taxed that requires that rate to be dropped in order, from what I'd heard on this show from Shannon Dennison, is predatory taxing, where you're keeping the rate the same because you can look at the taxpayer and the voter.
That was
and
a phrase I made up on the spot, by the way.
I like it, and that's something that
I
don't know if that would necessarily apply here, but it seems to be that.
Well, gross over taxation. I mean,
right,
let's take a look at the amount of money they're bringing in.
Yes.
So how much more money with this tax increase will they bring in year over year?
From the property tax, last year, the Shelby County Public Schools brought in $39.9 million.
Okay.
According to their own statement in the newspaper, that their expected revenue for this year, if nothing happens with this petition, would be just over $45 million.
So that's a $5 million increase on $40 million about.
Yes. On paper, they do make the claim that that is not 100% collectible, and we can argue with the fine numbers. They claim it's
Still,
just,
though,
shy
I mean,
of,
that's
just shy of $4 million more. So that's from 39.9, say it's the $4 million that they're saying that they can actually collect.
That's 10%.
That's a 10% increase. There hasn't been a 10% increase in the student body from what I've been able to find. It's been relatively stable at about just shy of 7,000 students for a while now. Shelby County Public Schools, they're I wouldn't say losing students, but families are choosing to homeschool at a greater rate. There are a number of individuals I've talked to who are sending their children to eminence schools because the quality of education is markedly better there. This started for me as a tax issue. My money in my pocket.
Sure. I mean, 10% increase is a fair amount. And that is, let's keep in mind, too,
Yes.
for the listeners, the reason why this is able to be referendum, because this is how the laws wrote. So every year, they can increase your property taxes. Any taxing district, that's not just the schools, it's any taxing district that assesses property taxes, can raise your taxes 4% year over year, and they're just allowed to do that as a vote. Now, these people are voted in, so the idea would be they'd be held accountable for that kind of increase at the ballot box, but, that's a different conversation. However, the fact that it's able to be referendum means it has to be more than a 4% increase. If it was less than a 4% increase or 4% or less increase, it wouldn't even be available for the citizens of Shelby County to say, look, we are taking issue with this tax increase. We want to put it to a vote. So on paper, it looks like it's 10%. Some people, maybe their property hasn't been assessed yet. Once it gets assessed, who knows, that may go up. But for people overall in the community, that's 10% more. That's money being sucked out of the community. And you're talking about the school's performance. Let me ask you this. Has the school said anything about why they need the money?
There have been a couple of statements made publicly that I've paid attention to. In the newspaper, when this was published, by law, they've got to put it in the newspaper.
Right.
It was earmarked, or it was noted that the vast majority of this increase in revenue would go towards instruction.
Construction.
Instruction. Meaning teaching, I'm assuming. My issue is teachers' pay isn't keeping up with the increase in revenue.
Are teachers seeing a 10% pay increase?
No, I would like to see that. I mean, if I would be for that for sure. I heard mention yesterday in the email that went out possibly a 1% increase, but it's in the same email mentioned that inflation is 2-something%. So, and the numbers I've seen
keeping up with COLA, cost of living adjustment.
And the numbers I've seen since 1990, this is from the Bluegrass Institute. You can go to Bluegrass Institute and look this information up yourself. Teachers' pay for Shelby County is relatively flat. It's up 0.05. But the amount of money spent per student since 1990 is up like 2.6. It's up over 2.5 times more money being spent per student per year.
2.5 times.
Yes. While in that time period,
how much did Shelby County spend per student last year? Do you know?
Last year, I don't know. The latest information I've been able to find is from 2023.
Okay, how much was that?
It was 18, so just shy of $19,000.
Just shy of $19,000
per student.
Per student,
up from about just north of $7,000 in 1990. So they've increased the amount of money they're spending per student astronomically. Teachers aren't seeing their proper portion of that, I would say, as well as the performance has just tanked. There's a chart I've seen where the amount of money being spent per student is going up.
If your teacher pay isn't even keeping up with COLA, your best teachers.
We're losing our best teachers to surrounding counties.
They're going to go to another county. They're going to go teach where the administration is prioritizing their pay over whatever else they're spending on. I mean, who knows? When we come back, though, because we got about a minute left, we'll discuss a little bit about where they're spending this money at, the argument here, and then what the response has been from the school district as you all have been putting together this signature page and gathering those signatures in Shelby County. So all of that when we get back. I do want to remind the listeners, if you want to join into the conversation in the final segment, we do go through your text questions and answer them here on air. You can join in by texting 502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-571-0970. Text in your questions. We'd love to hear from you, of course. And you know, maybe you want to know, hey, how do I get involved in this? Maybe you see that this issue right in your own backyard is something important. So when we come back too, we'll be discussing about how you can help out in this fight. We'll have that when we come back here in a few short minutes. And you are back here on Kentucky's Voice, your host for the day, Andrew Cooperrider, joined by Levi Anderson. There's a fight going on in Shelby County, of course, if you're just joining us to keep you informed, over a 10% tax increase. It's pretty big, pretty sizable tax increase, despite the fact that Shelby County Schools is spending how much, $19,000 per student?
Per student as of 2023. I don't know why the numbers can't be more updated.
$19,000.
Why do I got to pay my taxes and have all my numbers ready by the 15th of April?
Mm-hmm.
But it takes 2 or 3 years for a school district to put the numbers out for the public to access. I don't understand that, why we can't revise that, but that's another topic.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, let's not expect a quick response from the government on their own financials, trust me. But on the same side of things, that's $19,000 per year per student. That's a lot of money. But Shelby County's like, you know what? We need more. We need 10% more. Now, they have an increased student body. I asked what the money is going to be used for. You said they said it's going to be used for instruction. But you said that the teacher's email went out about raises, maybe only 1% raise. So let me ask you, have you asked the school yet, what is this money even for? Why do you need it?
We have multiple open records requests with central office. My understanding is another individual taking care of that. So we're kind of a loose group of people kind of talking to each other on this. This isn't some mastermind or centrally planned thing. Somebody else is doing a lot of this open records request. And she tells me they're supposed to have 5 days to respond. Well, they responded after the 5 days, said something wasn't filled out right. And she's gone back several times and asked for credit card statements most recently, having had that brought to my attention to look for that. And we've gotten nowhere. We're kind of getting the slow roll from what we can tell. But as far as where the money's going, this petition...
To pause there. There's a reason why you're getting a slow roll. Okay, so for those of you unaware, and this is a part of, I guess you'd call it a government conspiracy, because you'd say, well, they have to respond eventually. Why would they want to hold this information? Here is why. Because right now it is October 22nd. You have till the end of the month, so what is that, 8-9 days?
Yes.
To collect how many signatures?
2,500 altogether.
2,500 signatures. So the way the referendum works, okay, either 10% of the amount of people that voted in the last presidential election or 5,000 signatures, whichever is lower. So in Shelby County, less than 50,000 people voted in the last presidential election. Apparently around 25,000 did. So therefore, they need to collect 2,500 registered voter signatures to trigger the referendum. And they have until the end of this month to do it. Now, if you have something in your credit card statements that might fire up the populace a bit, it might push them toward, because right now, you as a school district can pretend like, hey, you know what? I'm actually, we're super responsible with our money. We've tried everything. We just really need to raise your taxes. However, if what you can do is hold off on revealing any information for those 8-9 days, however long, how many days? 22nd, 8-9 days. If you can hold off giving that information for 9 more days, and the amount of time it'd take to compel you to release that information, because you get the 5 days, you can claim something was wrong, they have to respond, you get 5 more days. That times people out where they can't get this information now. You are now able, as a school district, to hide information from the public that would have otherwise pushed them towards signing this referendum. And I think that is worth noting, because that is certainly an abuse of the open record system. And not to be conspiracy theorists, but it's out there in the open. That's what's going on. I have no other evidence from what you just said. If they wanted to be open and transparent with the taxpayers, they wouldn't be picking and needling and diming based on what you said, them waiting longer than 5 days, then claiming something was wrong. They could have responded immediately that they saw the response, said something is wrong. They're not doing it because they don't want you to have the information, because they don't want citizens to realize that they haven't been handling their money well. And I'm outraged. If you can't tell, I'm fired up about it because I know what they're doing and it's wrong.
It sure seems that way, and I'm glad to hear your passion. I've done my best to keep a level head on this. We're not against. We're for the taxpayer. I'm for the taxpayer. I'm for my money being in my pocket unless it's absolutely needed and justified. We're saying sign this petition if you're for the tax rate being where it is. If you're for it being lowered down to 70 cents per 100. Allow us this, signing the petition
what
allows
is the new tax
us,
rate?
The current tax rate is the same as last year for the school board, is 71.4 cents.
71.4 cents. Okay.
Per 100.
What is JCPS's tax rate?
I do not know that.
It is, I knew it off the top of my head. 71.7 cents. So Shelby County wants it to be?
71.4 is what it is now.
71.4. They want the same tax rate for their schools in Shelby County as JCPS wants out of their citizens here in Jefferson County. Now, it's a much smaller school district. You would say it has less overhead. That's one thing, too, about schools. Just real quick. You're a private business owner, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Me too. There is something in the world of private business called economy of scale, where it's supposed to be the larger you get, the cheaper you can do the same thing for. So you're in roofing, right?
Yes,
roofing? Sir. Okay. So let's say you got roofing projects going on and you have a roofing project manager. Whether that project manager is overseeing 3 roofs or 6 roofs, his cost relatively stays the same. You might give him a little pay increase, but his cost relatively stays the same. So that means per roof, you're saving that money on that management and you're making more money per roof, right?
Precisely.
Okay. Why is it that with school districts, we never see that? The smaller the school district, the less money they spend per student, typically, unless, of course, you're Shelby County. Then the larger the school district, they spend way more money per student. And you don't see any kind of that economy of scale that you see in private industry with the school system. That's always just been a pet peeve of mine because I notice it all the time. Doesn't that drive you crazy?
It does, and I've paid attention to, like I said, a couple weeks ago, I didn't know none of this stuff, but having looked at Anderson County and Spencer County, some of the surrounding counties, how they operate the cost to performance ratio, so to speak, they're spending a lot less per student and getting a lot better proficiency rates and test scores. Out of the 172 school districts in Kentucky, as of 2023, Shelby County for academics was rated 133. I get on Anderson County's public school website. Top of the page, it has the proficiency rate, and right below that, it says Anderson County is 33 of 172 school districts as far as academic performance. They're in the top percent of performance. They're spending a lot less than us.
And you said that a lot of people are leaving for Eminence out of Shelby for schooling there.
Independent. They
and
have
that's in
smaller
Henry.
School. Yes, Henry County.
Henry County. Okay. Henry County. Wait, is that its own school district?
There are 2. There's the county, and then there's a Eminence Independent
school district. Yeah, within it. Does Henry County schools do better too than Shelby County schools? Have you looked at that? Maybe you haven't.
I believe they do. I mean, Shelby County, like I said, is in the bottom fraction of the 172 school districts, 133.
Mm-hmm.
But yet we're in the top fraction as far as what we spend per student. So these 2 things aren't, like I said, the chart I've seen, the number of dollars per student is going up, the performance is going down, and teachers' pay is relatively flat, adjusted for inflation.
And Henry County is taxing less than Shelby County. I just checked.
Okay.
They're taxing 2-3 cents less per 100. than Shelby County. That's a pretty significant amount. Well, we're coming up on a break. I want to remind you guys, if you want to join into this conversation here in the final segment, that's not the next segment, that's the third segment, but the final segment, we'll be dealing with those questions. Feel free to text them in, 502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-571-0970. When we come back, we will get an update here from Levi on what they're doing to fight the taxation and what you can do if you want to help. Because like I said, you may live in Jefferson County listening to this, but you're saying, look, we are facing the Jefferson County Public Schools has a tax work group right now. We need to stop this in our own backyard so they don't get any funny ideas. We'll be back in a few short minutes. And welcome back to Kentucky's Voice, your host for the day, Andrew Cooperrider. We're digging into the Shelby County tax increase of property taxes and the referendum fight going on to stop that increase. As I mentioned in the last break, this is important for y'all here in Jefferson County, if you're listening here on the radio in Jefferson County, because your own school district has formed a committee right now to look at raising your taxes. And if they see a tax increase defeated in Shelby County, that might give them a little second thought. So that's worth mentioning. If you have questions, you have concerns, you have thoughts, you want to text into the show, feel free to shoot us over a message, 502-571-0970. Once again, that's 502-571-0970. Joining me, a member of the committee that was put together to gather these signatures in order to fight this, to get this on the ballot for people to vote, is Levi Anderson. For those of you unaware at home, the way this works is if a school district raises taxes beyond the 4% mark in a year, that triggers a opportunity for people to gather signatures, which triggers a referendum vote. And that can give a lot of opportunity. I mean, we were talking last segment about how they're stonewalling on these open records requests and involving the community. What does being able to put this on the ballot, does that give you guys more opportunity to kind of gather this information that you need?
That will allow both time and resources to have a public conversation. We're telling individuals, if you're for the tax rate, against where it is, or you don't know anything about it, signing this petition merely puts it to a public vote, allows us to have a public conversation as a community as to where our money is going, whether that money is best spent as it's going to the school district, or if that money is better off in your pocket. I've heard numbers recently of about $50 for the median home income. Well, that adds up. We got Christmas coming up, Thanksgiving, and $50 for some folks is a pretty big deal. So I don't like that. I've heard a message that's kind of deminimizing the impact on the individual. The fact is, it's the taxpayers' money. The school is entrusted with being a steward of the money, as well as it's the family's children. They're the steward of the community's children. And that's a big responsibility. Let's have a conversation as to whether they're doing the best they can with the money that they have access to, or if this is just pouring more money on top of a bad situation.
And to put it in perspective too, sure, it might be just quote unquote, well, it's just $50 more. It's just this, it's just that. Right now, with this current tax rate of a home that would be $300,000 in Shelby County, which I don't know much about the real estate market, but I would say that that's not hard to find.
I think somewhere in there, right? Yeah, somewhere right there.
Yeah, so 300,000 is actually below your median amount. You'd be looking at right now their tax bill just to the school is $2,140 a year. That's more than many people's mortgage payment. Yes. That's an entire mortgage payment a year going to their schools to produce low-level income. So you may say, well, it's just $50. Well, that just $50, that just 4% every year, that just this, just that adds up over time to the point where right now the residents of Shelby County are paying more just to the school and property tax than they spend on a mortgage payment a month.
Yes.
That's ridiculous.
Yes. And like you said, this is a cumulative thing, and we're looking at taking control of this now as a community, as a public voters getting together and making our voices heard. before it becomes like Jefferson County, before it gets so far out of hand. I've heard so many folks say over the past 3 weeks that they're getting taxed out of the community. This is folks that have lived here their whole lives, and they're saying they can't. They say this is ridiculous.
Well, we just covered it's the same tax rate, or almost basically the same tax rate as Jefferson County Schools. So if you left, as many people do, because this is what happens, you maybe said, "Look, I can't afford a home. I can't afford the taxes in Jefferson County." Because the way it works, and in case people at home aren't aware of this, when you're going out to buy a home, we were talking about that $2,000 and everything else. They look at your debt to income ratio, and they then say, okay, this is how much home you can buy. Well, they figure in your property taxes and your insurance into what your payment would be before they say this is how much home you can buy. And so literally if you're paying, $2,000-$3,000 a year in property taxes just to the school, that's tacked onto your payment. That's another $200 or so a month in your mortgage payment that is considered your debt to income ratio. That's a significantly different priced home. And so it makes it to where, a median earner, people who normally in the past would have been able to buy their first home, are now not able to in Jefferson County. Taxes so high. So they go to move to these other counties, and now they're getting the same treatment in these outlying counties like Shelby County, where they moved into it to escape this situation.
Precisely. That's what we're seeing. There's a number of folks I've talked to that have moved from surrounding counties and out of state, and had the opportunity to meet so many folks, and look forward to meeting so many more in the coming week and a half or so, 9 days.
So you guys are collecting signatures
actively all the time.
So if somebody's listening and they happen to live in Shelby County, registered voter in Shelby County, how do they sign this petition?
One of the easiest ways, we have a website that is SCTAXA.org. That's Shelby County Tax Association. You can go on there.
Okay, say it again.
SCTAX.
So SC Tax A.
Yeah.
So SC Tax A. So SCTAXA. Or Shelby County Tax Association. So SCTAX.A.org.
Yes.
Or not .a, sorry. SCTAXA.org. So SCTaxa.org, and they can sign the petition online.
Not online. Only Jefferson County and Louisville and Lexington can do it online. The way the law has been modified since that went to the Supreme Court from Jefferson County, that only those two
they can go on there, though, and request.
We have to have pen and paper. They can print off a petition.
Okay.
You don't need permission to be involved. You need to know the basic information, be factual, be transparent with what you know and what's publicly available out there. You can sign this. I've had people sign it and say, well, my husband or wife would like to sign this. I can say, you go to the website.
So you go on the website,
print off a petition.
Okay.
Have them sign it. Talk to your family, your friends, your neighbors. If they're interested, have them sign it. There's a phone number on the website. You can give that phone number a call. Somebody will be arranged to pick up that petition. We also have a public
How easy?
form.
So you go on the website, you print off the form, you sign it. You can even get your friends, your family, your neighbors to sign that same form.
As long as they're registered voters in Shelby County.
As long as they're registered voters in Shelby County to sign that same form. And then you just call the number on the site, and you guys will come pick it up.
That's the way this is intended to work. We also have a public forum.
Okay.
Tomorrow we're calling it a public forum discussion on taxes at the Stratton Center at 6:15. That's on 215 Washington Street in Shelbyville.
Stratton Center in Shelbyville.
Stratton Center in Shelbyville tomorrow at 6:15. We're going to have a couple speakers. We're going to have a sign-up list in the back for individuals that want to speak. We want to hear from the public, answer questions, have a public conversation. If nothing else comes from this except we get a good public conversation, we're paying attention to where our money is going and the what is being produced from that money, then that's a success in itself. I would like to see this go to a vote just so the voters can have their voices heard. With that being said, we want to get input and feedback from others as well, how this has impacted, especially folks that, if your income isn't rising 10%, but your tax bill is, or even more, well, that puts, just because your property's worth more on paper doesn't mean you have any more money in your bank account. It puts people in a hard spot.
What has the school said in response? Have they responded to any criticisms of the tax increase?
I haven't directly heard anything. I would like to meet with Superintendent Matthews. I've heard nothing derogatory about the superintendent. He's new. I've been told he's doing his best to take a hold of a difficult situation, and I would like to give him that grace and sit down with him face to face 5 minutes.
You're too
what he has to
reasonable.
say.
You're too reasonable.
I might be, but I'm a reasonable man. Like I told people, you put information in front of me, and if it's valid and if it's verifiable, I'm open-minded enough to change my mind. However, with the information that I have, I see this as either A, I hate assigning intent, but either A, they just looked over it last year and said, this is what we charged last year, let's just charge it this year, or two, well, let's charge this and we can say we didn't raise rates if anybody questions it. Knowing that it was over the 4% above the compensating rate. The compensating rate was 67 cents per 100. That would have saved folks a lot of money on their taxes if they had gone with the compensating rate. And those that had an increase in their assessed value, it would have cut that down on that additional amount of money that it had to pay. So
you think they just said, you know what? I think PR-wise, this is a good moment. Let's shoot our shot. Let's go for it.
It seems that way.
We can obfuscate the issue enough.
Yeah.
That people won't think it's a tax increase. I mean, sure, their tax bill went up, but whatever. But we can at least, we think we can get away with it. This might be our only opportunity.
I've heard to the effect pretty much that nobody's going to do anything, and we can keep the rate where it is. And nobody will say anything. Enough of us in the community had talked for long enough. It took us so long to just get this affidavit filed. We talked and heard from people, and finally it's like, well, let's just do something. And that's what started this. It's a grassroots movement.
That's what I love about these tax fights, personally. I love a good tax fight. I don't love them raising taxes, but I like seeing it defeated because I think it shows the opportunity for citizens to get involved. They see how work rate in your community can actually make a bottom line difference. It can save people a lot of money. It can demand accountability, better financial decisions out of your school district. All of that's really important. So if you want to get involved, once again, that is SC Tax A. So SCTAXA.org, SCTaxa.org if you're out in Shelby County, or even if you live in Jefferson County and you want to go and you want to knock doors in Shelby County and get registered voters to sign, you can do that as well by visiting SCTaxa.org. When we come back, we'll be answering your text messages. If you want to get one in real quick, 502-571-0970. Once again, 502-571-0970. We'll be back in a few short minutes. And you're back here on Kentucky's Voice. All said the Andrew Cooperrider Show, which, by the way, shameless plug. This is my last show here on Kentucky's Voice for a few weeks here. But the Andrew Cooperrider Show, which you can check out by visiting theandrewshow.com or listen right here on 970 Sundays at 6 p.m. We'll still be putting out new episodes over the next few weeks, so you can go ahead, tune in, and listen to that if you're like, look, we need to hear more from you, Andrew. I can't go a few weeks without the Cooperrider. Well, that's where you can do it. You can go to theandrewshow.com. So we got a few questions texted in. I want to make sure we go ahead and deal with these. Okay, so one of the questions was, please let listeners know where we can find the list of the 172 Kentucky schools and their efficacy. Wayne Lewis under Governor Bevin made that info available, a real eye-opener. So I can answer for him if you want me to. So I don't know the exact website, but if you go to Google and you Google Kentucky School Report Card, Kentucky School Report Card, and then that'll take you to the Kentucky Department of Education has a website where schools submit this information, and it'll have by district. You can search it by district. You can search it by individual school, and it'll tell you a whole lot of things. It can tell you about their testing, and it'll show kind of the trends over the past few years on how they're doing as far as efficiency goes, how many are proficient, how many are overperforming, underperforming, etc. And it'll also show you a lot of breakdowns, how many teachers they have, the teacher-to-student ratio, the faculty-to-student ratio. You can kind of figure out by doing a little bit of math there as well, because they'll tell you the total amount of everything. And then it'll also have a financial page that tells you how much they're spending per student. And then it'll also tell you some more of that financial breakdown as far as where that money is going. And that ties into another question we had, which said, do you know the percentage of the cost per student that goes to administration versus teacher pay? Do you know that right offhand for Shelby County?
I do not. That is something that we would like to have access to as far as in the central office. What is the pay ratio, like you talked about, to the teacher pay per student, however that's divided out?
Well, let's do some quick math here. Okay, we'll do some quick math. I know everybody hates it when Andrew does math on air, but what is the average teacher pay of Shelby County schools? Let's look at this. Okay, we'll just do some quick math here. Let's see here. According to teacher.org, the average teacher pay in Shelby County is looks to be right around 60-ish thousand. Looks to be around. Does that sound right? 54, 46, 62, 59, 46. So 60-ish thousand, let's say. And they were spending $19,000 per student, even if they have a 15-to-1 teacher ratio, which would actually be pretty solid, but not super common. That's $285,000 a year. So if we take the 60,000 divided by $285,000 per year, that tells us 21%. So there you go. Around probably, this isn't the official numbers, but I bet if you look, I'm really not very far off how I did that. 21-ish% of the spending is actually going towards teachers' salaries. The rest is for some reason going elsewhere. Now, of course, you have busing, you have facilities, you have other things, but you also have administrators. Now, I know, and you'll find this in many school districts, in Fayette County Public Schools, they have as many support staff, administrators, and support staff as they have teachers. Is that the same thing? Have you seen with Shelby County?
I'm not sure on that. I know that there is a portion of the budget. I've seen it as a pie chart, and instruction is part of it, and it's something along the lines of teachers. 8 or something along those lines. The issue I have is I've heard so many stories about teachers having to go and buy paper and pens and stuff for the classrooms when their money, they're not getting paid proportional to the increase in revenue.
If you just take,
and they're having to take their own resources to provide something that the school should provide. They've got, by their own numbers, nearly $4 million that is collectible in additional revenue, and yet there's a deficiency of pen and paper in the classrooms. They're talking about cutting the SRO program when they have dragged their feet over the last several years just to implement that program, when the sheriff bears a portion of that cost. The numbers aren't adding up. This petition merely allows us to vote on it. It allows us to have a public conversation and get information together on both sides. There's a proverb, and I don't know which one or what it is. It says something along the lines that a judge has no reason to doubt the plaintiff until he hears the defendant. And so if all anybody has heard is one side of this issue, listen to the other side, do your homework, and come to a conclusion, sign this petition, and allow all the information to become available.
Well, and I know if you take Shelby County Schools, for an example, obviously they're going to be losing teachers, because I happened to notice, I mentioned this last week, that Fayette County Public Schools put out a new salary database where you can search by employee and see how much they're getting paid. I was clicking around on there, and elementary school art teacher I found in Fayette County, I was randomly searching, came across one. I didn't search all art teachers. You can't search by job title, but an elementary school art teacher in Fayette County is making $83,000 a year. Yeah, of course you're going to be losing some teachers when teaching, elementary school kids to finger paint makes you $83,000 a year. I know they do a little bit more than that, but here's another question for you. Really makes me want to move to another state, truly considering the move. I think honestly, based upon what I know, that is pretty reasonable conclusion, because you look at our surrounding states, you look at Tennessee, you look at some of the other states, you look at how much they're taxing, how much the citizens. My son actually has asked me about this the other day, because I was talking. We were listening to a trivia show, and part of when the question was what state has the most gun manufacturers, and Texas was an option and Tennessee was an option. And I had said Tennessee. The real answer was Texas. But I had said Tennessee, and he goes, why Tennessee? I was like, well, it's a historical home of gun manufacturers. But also, they've taken a lot of steps to ending a lot of taxes and income taxes and everything else. So if I had a gun manufacturer and I just take the same exact company to Tennessee, I make 5% more profits or 10% more profits. And that can be pretty significant across the board if I'm not paying that income. And having owned companies in other states, I can tell you this as well. Kentucky is one of the hardest states, and you're a business owner, you know this, to just do business in. Nothing, the Secretary of State and the Department of Revenue and all these other people, they don't talk to each other. You have 6 different online portals you have to go into and fill things out. The way you file things is, if you just own a business that doesn't make a profit at all in Kentucky and you need to file your paperwork and you can't do it yourself, your cost to just own a business is at least $5,000 before you've made a penny of revenue. It's ridiculous.
It is.
It is ridiculous.
And all that can be streamlined, and there's no part of getting public involvement. You'd mentioned gun manufacturers as a Second Amendment. Well, this is a First Amendment issue, the right to petition your government.
Yeah.
And that's all that we're asking. The law allows for when a taxing district rate is high enough, it allows the public to get involved to make the decision what to do with their money. Instead of 5 board members, we could have the entire voting public in Shelby County to come together, have this conversation, have this vote, and together move the ball forward. Because allowing just a few individuals and sort of subcontracting your responsibility as a citizen has got us into this situation. And so it's going to take just regular. I'm just a regular guy.
Yeah.
The other people on this committee, the other people that are really involved in this process, they're just regular folk that care enough to sacrifice time, money, resources that they could be. I could be doing other stuff. I could be out working right now making money. And I've taken so much time off in the past couple of weeks to put towards this, not because I'm going to gain anything, not because I'm going to save $50 on my tax bill, be less than that really, but it's, and I know I'm going to get reassessed next time around, so I know I'm going.
Oh, you're on the list, buddy.
I'm on the list. This is going to cost me.
Levi Anderson, that's the first home we're reassessing.
But doing this because it's time for small-time people to get involved. Men and women have fought and died for us to have this ability to petition our government. But we formed this nation in part over taxes, and so it's our money as a public. And it should be our vote as a public as well when it comes to this issue.
Yeah. Well, here's another text that came in. We understand renters pay school taxes by the way of cost of rent. How do people in low-income housing and Section 8 pay their fair share of school tax? First, they don't. But that's an interesting concept, fair share of taxes. We hear a lot of liberals throw that around. What is a fair share of taxes? Now, one who might be edgy and a bomb thrower, which I'm not, I would never say this, to be clear, might say that your fair share of school taxes is exactly what it costs to educate your own children, because you chose to have those kids. It is your responsibility of a parent to educate them. You should be the one paying for it. But that is not something I would say. I'm not that crass, and I don't want anybody to be able to clip anything and claim that I think poor kids shouldn't get school. I'm just making a general statement that a person who maybe is edgier than me might say such a thing. But
you had mentioned that we talked about the $19,000 per student in public schools and the performance. A family can opt to send their kid, pay the taxes for all the other kids, send their children to a private school for $5,000. They can homeschool for, I've heard, a couple thousand, $1,500, and get better results.
They wouldn't actually have to pay. Like if parents were paying for it themselves, do you think a single year of education would cost 20 grand?
Well, I mean, I understand you got infrastructure and all this other stuff too that'll factor in, but we're just saying it's just so far blown. It's the largest employer in the county. It's the largest tax body in the county. I mean, it's such a big behemoth that it's time for the public to start scrutinizing it and holding folks accountable. I said this is a new superintendent on board. With the performance, the proficiency rate being about 25%, us being 133 out of 172 school districts as of 2023, somebody needs to be fired.
Yeah.
You know, just to send the message that we are not going to continue business as usual, that we will make improvements. We owe it to the children, to the families, to the community, because what is produced by the schools, these individuals that graduate, will be a legacy on the community.
Well, that is sctax.a. sctaxa.org. So sctaxa.org. If you want to get involved, to answer that text, though, no, people in Section 8 do not pay property taxes. You do with your tax dollars that then subsidize their housing. It's fantastic. Well, you guys have a great day. I'll see you in a few weeks.